Hi, I'm curator Emily Schuchardt Navartil, and you're watching the Artists Forum.
I'm sculptor John Crawford, and you're watching the Artists Forum.
Good evening. My name is Joshua Banbury, and you're watching the Artists Forum. Today with us, I have Emily and John from the Vilcek Foundation. Emily, thanks for joining us. Would you mind telling us a bit more about how you became to be a curator for the foundation?
Absolutely. So I met Jan and Maria Vilcek, who established the Vilcek Foundation. I met them in 2009, but they established the foundation in 2000. The foundation works to raise awareness of immigrant contributions and fosters an appreciation for the arts and sciences. So I met them in 2009 and started doing cataloging and research on their art collection, and that sort of grew into curatorial work. And so I've been with the foundation itself since 2014.
Okay. Did the foundation originate in Czechoslovakia or in the United States first in 2000?
In the United States. So Jan and Maria immigrated from communist Czechoslovakia in the mid-60s. They came to New York, and Jan established a lab at the NYU Medical Center, and then Maria started at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And so that sort of is the dual sides of the foundation. Is sort of Jan is the science side, and then Maria is the art side.
Okay. Did you come to this foundation originally as a curator?
No, I started working with them sort of personally as just a researcher and a cataloger as I was working on my dissertation, and then moved to the foundation once they decided that their collection would be a promised gift to the foundation, and so then started sort of curating, in the foundation.
So Emily, you curated the Ralston Crawford exhibit, and you are the son of Mr. Crawford. Can you tell us how you started to work on putting this exhibit together for your father?
Well, I think that I got involved when Rick Kinsel, and who also works at the foundation, and Emily spoke to me about this exhibition that they were thinking about doing, which involved these two themes, these two subjects that my father worked on, a Torn Signs series and another series called Semana Santa. And there's paintings and photographs and prints in all of the two of these themes. And I was able to loan some material to the show, and I also had some ideas about the connection between these two themes, which I worked on with Emily, and it all sort of comes together around this one photograph, it's a Torn Signs photograph that's related to a painting that's called Torn Signs that was painted sort of right in the middle of this group of Semana Santa paintings. And it becomes a little bit clearer, but it's a really interesting, kind of engaging question as to what happened there. How did this artist happen to do exactly this thing? And so that's sort of where it started, and it turned into a really unique exhibition, because going into the micro, we actually get to see and understand how the sort of macro, sort of a lot about how this artist experienced working.
Can you tell us more about his process, or because I read that he was in the military for a time, and his work now focuses a bit on how his perspective changed after he was in the military and how that changed his art. Is that something that the exhibit is focusing on?
Peripherally, yes. I mean, it's there. It's a really cool exhibit because it's not so obvious. And it's also curatorially interesting because a lot of curators place themselves either before World War II or after World War II. And so what do you do with an artist whose career is almost split right in the middle by World War II? So half of it was before the war and half of it was after. And he was also an artist who was really engaged with what was going on around him, and so his work before the war was very much influenced by the culture, the American culture of that time, which was very positive. You know, technology and industry were all good. You know, canned food, refrigeration, airplanes. I mean, this was all helping, when he was he was in the Pentagon as a graphic artist and developed a visual language for information about weather conditions for all of the military, the Air Force, the infantry, and actually that was the language that was used in sort of weather, you know, by weathermen up until computer-generated imagery. And in the war and during the war, the atomic bomb was discovered and used, and that changed the world forever. And his art, and he was able to. He knew that as an artist, and went there, and so you can no longer paint sort of you know, completely optimistic. You know, you can't just have this optimistic worldview. And so I think it's important that it didn't just go from optimism to pessimism, but now you have both. And so after the war, there's this sort of incredible realization of the destructive power of all of this industry and technology, and at the same time continuing with you know, this fundamental goodness that's in all of us too. And therein are these two, you know, without making it sort of too much of a neat package, but the torn signs might be considered an outgrowth of the kind of destructive elements of that he encountered in World War II, and the Semana Santa, the more serene and elements. And then there's this one painting and photograph where they sort of come together, which is a really kind of beautiful reality, if you will.
So you're an artist yourself, correct?
I am. I'm a sculptor. Yes. Not a painter.
And your work it's heavily influenced by your father's work, and if I correct, by farming tools.
Well, I mean, okay, certainly my father was there are several things that were big influences on my own work. One of them was being in this particular family, just like all of us. You know, I had a lot of exposure to an artist whose work I really respect. And then since he died, I've done a lot of work with his work. So yes, I find a lot of his viewpoints very valuable and very helpful to me as an artist. The farm tools shapes are something that I became interested in, and there's, I mean, that was right out of art school, which is 40 years ago now, and so my work has evolved away from those shapes, and in some periods it's come back to them. But it was a very big, they were a very big influence on me because of their sort of structural beauty.
Can you talk about, both of you, what it was like to sort of revisit his work and try to start to put together, I guess, a way that the Because it's such a, putting together an exhibit for someone who is not living, I can imagine it's such a challenging thing because you have to create this perspective about this artist and this person for the entire world. What was it like trying to decide what goes in the exhibit, what doesn't, and what do you want to say about him, and what was that like?
So for me, it was an incredible experience. I was so fortunate to work with John, who was so generous with his time, his father's work, his memories. And so for me, that was, part of what made it so cool is that it wasn't just getting his perspective as an artist, which was fascinating. I learned a lot about process and just sort of how, certain things are made. But then to have the insights of one of the artist's sons, so that as we're going through his archive and he can flip over a photograph and he can decode all of those notations on the back that his father made. And so that led us to all sorts of really fantastic discoveries. So for me, it was one of the best experiences because I got to discover all of this material, a lot of it that no one else had really seen, but then I also got to see it through John's eyes, which was transformative.
Which is it's so rare that we often get that opportunity to have that sort of insight on an artist's work after they're gone. Yeah. And is this information in the book that you guys have put together for the exhibit as well about the curatorial process?
Not so much. I mean, I think you see it kind of through John's essay, which is really interesting, and he kind of looks at, photography. And then he creates this amazing Y shape, which is sort of what he was talking about, after the war, that Crawford's art sort of diverges, but that there are still all of these similarities. And then in terms of the catalog entries, all of the discoveries that we made are in there, but sort of not with all the exclamation points we used when we were emailing about them. But yeah, so it's all in there, but perhaps with a little less excitement that we had about it.
Yeah, and if I understand, this exhibit is also going to inaugurate the new building that the foundation has on the Upper East Side, correct?
Yes. So we moved in October. So it was a long renovation process of a historic building, a townhouse on East 70th between Madison and 5th. And so we have an exhibition space, and so this is the first exhibition in the space, so we're really excited, and it'll be up through November 13th. So we have a lot of time to work with, which is also nice. So it's an exciting time at the foundation for sure.
Excellent. Can you tell us more about how someone could get involved with the foundation? Because there are many aspects of the foundation. There's grants that artists can apply for.
Absolutely. So when the foundation was established, sort of the main driver was the Vilcek Prize, and so that is a cash prize that's given every year. They give out two, one in the biomedical sciences and then one in the arts. The arts category rotates. I think there are at least 7 different categories, from culinary arts to fine arts to literature. And so the prizes are for an established person who has made a really large contribution to American society. So we've given the culinary...
As an immigrant.
Yeah, as an immigrant. So we've given the culinary arts has gone to Jose Andres, to Marcus Samuelson. Nari Ward won our most recent Fine Arts Prize. And then the biomedical science is the same. So it's someone who has done, an immigrant to the United States who has done groundbreaking work in biomedical sciences. And so that, again, mirrors the Vilcek's personal backstories, Jan in biomedical sciences, and then Maritza in the arts. So that sort of is the big prize. We also do what we call Creative Promise Prizes, and so those are for immigrants under the age of 38 who have already made a contribution to their respective fields. So those prizes can be applied for. So we roll out every year, we do a call for applications, and people can sign up and go through the process of applying for those, and then there's a jury that selects them. And so that's also a cash prize, and you get a really nice trophy as well. So that sort of is the main thing that the foundation was established to do. The art collection is kind of an outgrowth of Jan and Maritza's personal collection, and so it's sort of separate, but we're also fostering the appreciation of the arts through that. And then we do give a small amount of grants, but those are mostly we do a staff grant program where staff can find a grant. So it's less sort of soliciting grants on that end.
And tell us, how did the organization become to acquire your father's work originally? How did the relationship begin?
Well, I am sort of, I know specifically there was some work of my father's up at a museum that, the Philbrook, I believe, that the Vilceks also were having some of their collection shown at the same time or the next show or something like that. And through the Philbrook, the Vilceks love my father's work. Through the Philbrook, they found me, and I've been, they've acquired a few things from me over the years, and I think that it's just, number one, they have a great collection, and my father is a really good artist. They like his work. I can understand why. Number two, my father was an immigrant. He was born in Canada, so that kind of fits the mission a little bit too.
Definitely.
And so all the better. And then number three, and this is just my idea, but I think my father was very influenced by. Before the war, by a scientist named Albert Barnes, who had a very advanced art collection and brought a kind of scientific way of thinking to art. Really, and I think that this really influenced my father, and I think that somehow or another, the fact that Jan Vilcek is a scientist and that my father's work has something of this highly organized approach. There may be some resonance there. That's just my thought.
Yeah. And you two became fairly close in working on this project together. How many people have been working on putting this together? Or
it's just pretty much.
For the most part, it was the two of us.
I was just helping.
We have Seamus McKillop, who is the registrar and the collections and exhibitions manager at the foundation. He helped with sort of all of the logistics and all that. But yeah, so it was mostly the two of us. But
a lot of time on my pool table with things spread out, and I learned. Emily may have learned some things. I learned some things. Emily there's this incredible knitting together. One of the things that the show is about, that you can use the photography to his photography as a way into this. What these paintings look very abstract at first, but once you see them through the lens of the photography, you can see that it's all things that he saw.
Yeah.
And he's photographing a way of a painter thinks about what he's looking at, and we can see that. And so there were a couple of things that Emily really discovered. It keeps happening, but she found some relationships between some photographs, and she assembled one particular kind of composite of a group of photographs that, in a really interesting way, that's never been done. Opened my eyes. It's really intriguing.
Well, it sounds like you have quite a gift. Could you maybe give anyone advice about how to become a curator, or any words of wisdom?
I don't know about words of wisdom. For me, it was a lot of internships early on, which thankfully are mostly paid now. They were not back in the day, and so that's a real problem that I think they're fixing. But yeah, and then just I love the research, and I think to be a curator, it's good to have a good memory. I'm very good at memorizing things, so that's a lot of art history. But yeah, so.
And what about you? What advice could you impart to anyone who's aspiring to be an artist, a full-time artist? You're a full-time artist, correct?
Well, yeah, I've always done other things, and there's always something else to do. And I think that I could quote my father there. Something that has been very helpful to me was he thought about these things in terms of the acceptable compromise. It's like, what will it be? There's your studio, and you can teach, or you can wash dishes, or you can you know, start a little mail order business. I mean, you know, or you can go out there and ring doorbells in the art world and try and make your way through the commercial gallery system. You know, and in some ways, I think a healthy understanding that none of those things, including the art world choice, have a lot to do with what happens in the studio. You know, keep it real. Go to the studio.
So Emily, how can we get in touch with the foundation and keep up with everything that you guys are up to?
So everything is on our website, which is at vilcek.org. You can find out more about the prizes, the exhibition there. We're also on Twitter at Vilcek, and then on Instagram at Vilcek Foundation.
Perfect. And how can we keep up with what you're up to?
You can go to johncrawfordsculpture.com, and I believe if you go to John Crawford Sculpture you'll get to my Instagram feed, and I think that's all I got.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for watching. You can keep up with what we're up to at the Artists Forum on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at the Artists Forum. And Emily, John, thank you for joining us this evening. Once again, I am Joshua Banbury, and thank you for watching the Artists Forum.
The Artists Forum. Get connected. Be heard.
The Artists Forum is a place where artists of all disciplines can network, collaborate, and showcase their work. You want to know when to catch us? Well, check us out on Facebook and Twitter, or sign up for our newsletter. You can also see us live on the web via Manhattan Neighborhood Network's MNN.org.
On the Artists Forum, you'll see interviews with New York City's emerging talents in theater, dance, music, visual arts, as well as the written word. We'll jump the velvet rope to get interviews with entertainment industry's top insiders, as well as some of its underground talents.
Expose yourself to the Artists Forum. Show us your work. Invite us to your performances. Do you have questions about the business? Do you need help better focusing your career? Or maybe just want to post some information about an upcoming project? Well, log on to our website, theartistsforum.org.
The Artists Forum, on the pulse of community activities and events.
Hi, I'm curator Emily Schuchardt Navartil, and I would encourage all artists out there to come and join the Artists Forum. It's a really great experience. It's a great platform, and they really are fantastic people.
I'm sculptor John Crawford. I'm having a great experience at the Artists Forum. The interviews were very interesting, and they're providing a great service to the whole arts community in New York. Please join and participate.
My name is Cinder Chow. I am a filmmaker based in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm the writer-director of The Man with the Western Hat. The Man with the Western Hat is about a young woman named Anna who begins to see a handsome cowboy wandering the streets of Brooklyn, the cowboy from the fictional Western that she's recently become obsessed with. As she's trying to find out who he is, it reveals more about her journey and who she is and what she needs to do. 2/3 of the film is shot outside in Prospect Park. Definitely weather was a concern. We were worried that it was going to be really cold, but during the 3 days that we filmed, it was 70-degree weather, so I guess thanks global warming, or not. As a female filmmaker, I try not to think about it too much because if someone has a problem with me being female, that's kind of their problem, not mine. You just try to focus on the work and do the best that you can do, and everything else is just a distraction. When I first heard about the Artists Forum Festival of the Moving Image, I was really intrigued by the moving image part because it called to mind the early days of cinema when it was just moving pictures. And it's very clear that the films selected here are about, doing something different. And it feels great to be part of a film festival that celebrates individuality. My advice for emerging filmmakers would be to write what you want to see. You want to create a world that you haven't seen before, a reflection of a different experience.
Hello, my name is Stephen Hilliard. I'm a British artist living in Madison, Wisconsin. My piece in the film festival is called Katyusha. Katyusha is a 3-channel experimental movie about the community of Pyramida, showcase community where 1,000 men, women, and children lived as a way of proving the superiority of the Soviet system over its Western rivals. So the story that Katyusha tells is bittersweet, and it's told via 2 fictional lovers, a basketball player and a ballerina. And we meet them at 2 different times, and we jump back and forth uncontrollably between these 2 times. And I focused on the camera moving out, constantly moving out and leaving things and people behind. One of the quirks of shooting in Pyramida is that you are in an archipelago of islands where there are way more polar bears than people. So throughout the time that I was filming at Pyramida, I was carrying a rifle at all times, which was an unusual way of working for me. This is the first of the film festivals I've shown it in that I've been able to attend. So I'm actually thrilled to be here, and it's a wonderful experience to see your work in front of an audience and to have that kind of sense of community of being around other filmmakers, which doesn't exist when you're in a darkened room full of equipment for several years putting it together. My advice to filmmakers or prospective filmmakers would be that be prepared for a marathon. You are getting into a way of working that needs a lot of stamina and commitment to your vision and your obsession.